This is Greg Walker. I'm the CEO of CABA. This is the quarterly meeting of the council, and we're missing our chair and a couple of vice chairs, so it's a little bit of a skeleton crew for this webinar. But I think there's not as many attendees as normal, but some really good ones. So and some really good topics that we have for Helium as our keynote. I'll briefly go through the slides here. I'll be the sort of acting chair for this meeting. We'll first start off a little to the CHC, not very much, and then we'll go from some administrative work. We'll approve the past minutes. We'll move as per Ken's request. Ken's actually making a call for some white paper proposals, and we'll explain a little bit about a white paper program. We'll move that up just to pass after administration, give an update on some of the research projects that we recently completed and updated, updating for 2022, and then the keynote presentation from Scott on Helium. And then we'll go through some new business announcements and adjournment. So I think it'll probably be a little bit shorter meeting than normal, but we'll get right into it. So here's the Connected Home Council. It's chaired by Eric Harper from Snap One, and then we have vice chairs by Byron B. Miller, Jim Hunter, and Charles Hume from Semcheck, Delos, and Southwire, respectively. So this council started back in 2004, and we meet via webinar quarterly and talk about different initiatives that are going on in the connected home space, different initiatives that CABA should be taking on. We talk about white papers, we talk about CABA research, and we've, a few years ago, we implemented these keynote presentations where we invite a guest speaker that is originally brought forward by our Connected Home Council itself, of who they'd like to see and the topics they'd like to have. So they were given a time slot of around half an hour, 40 minutes to present to this particular group. So this is open to all CABA members, and if you're not on the council and you're attending, and then we'll send a note that we'll add you to the council unless we hear otherwise. We are recording this webinar for those that are unable to attend, and we'll be sending it out to the Connected Home Council shortly after. And we'll also be sharing the contact information of the keynote speaker if you wanted to reach out afterwards. With that, I'll go to the minutes. So I'm looking for a motion to approve our February 15th, 2022 CHC meeting minutes. Does anyone have a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
That's moves to approve the minutes.
Okay, so I have Jim, and then maybe a seconder by David Katz. Anyone opposed or any changes to the minutes? Hearing none, opposed motion passes, and we'll put these formal minutes on the web page under the council. Next, I'll go through. I think Ken wanted to say a few words here about the white paper program. So back to you, Ken.
Thank you very much, Greg. Let me give you a broad overview of the benefits that CABA provides for its members through research, which Greg will explain to you, through webinars, of which your attendance here is one of the webinars, and through written documents, both sourced and original. I want to focus on the original papers developed by the Connected Home Council and by the Intelligent Buildings Council at CABA. These original white papers are an opportunity for participants in CABA to create an original paper about the connected home environment. You have a lot of flexibility to choose any topic in our industry. Your objective is to teach us something, explain something, and we're here to help. I chair the Connected Home Council White Papers Committee, as well as the Intelligent Buildings Council. And usually we have anywhere from 3 to a half a dozen papers in progress. The writing process can take a couple of months to a half a year, depending upon how complex the topic is. And in fact, some of our topics like power over Ethernet and others have devolved into multiple papers because we needed an introduction, then we needed maybe a technical paper, then a market development paper. The bottom line is the CABA staff and the CABA volunteers are here to help you develop the paper. We can set up a subcommittee for you to contribute to the paper idea that you may have. So I don't have any reports now about papers in progress. This is rather unusual. In fact, I can't think of any time in the past, was it been about 10 years, Greg, we've been writing original papers that we've not had a whole bunch queued up. But take this as an opportunity to put forth your ideas and send your proposals to Marta or to Greg or to me. I also want to take this opportunity to tell you about the Complementary Committee, complementary to CHC and IBC, is the Publications Review Committee. This was formerly called the CABA Information Council, and is an opportunity for publications, articles that appear in the trade press to be brought into CABA. The advantage of putting them in the CABA library after they're reviewed by the Publications Review Committee is that they are vetted for relevance either to CHC or to IBC, and they're checked to make sure they're not an advertorial. We have no problem in mentioning brand names, but the way we would accept that is if the paper taught us something, and then the writer could say, well, my company offers a solution to it, and here's our take on the problem, and here's our solution. That's fine as long as you don't start the paper by saying, here's a problem, and there's only one solution in the universe, and we make it. So we're in a very competitive field, so there's really no reason to say there's only one solution. There may be a best solution, and that's certainly your prerogative to have that opinion, but we can teach our members something. The good news is we have amassed thousands of papers that we have vetted, and we have a very strict vetting process, including a form that every reviewer has to fill out, indicating the relevance of the paper, the age of the paper, the topics in the paper, so the papers are searchable by keywords. And we give CABA members exclusive access for a few years, and then we make the papers available to the general public on the CABA website. So please do check out CABA.org, and if just log in with your member credentials and you can see the exclusive list of papers available to you. And a final reminder, please submit your ideas for white papers, and we'd be glad to give you a hand in shaping the contents. Remember, the audience for the papers are the CABA members who have a diversity of knowledge in the connected home space. So we try not to have highly technical papers. Those papers you can direct towards the referee journals. We want papers that introduce concepts to our diverse members, which include both engineers and managers, people in marketing, people in product positioning. So you have a broad sweep audience here, open to a whole variety of papers in the connected home space. I'd be glad to answer any questions or just return it to Greg.
Are there any questions for the white paper program? Okay, hearing none, I'll go back. I'll give a brief update about some of the research that we're doing, and then pass it off to to Jim to introduce Scott for the keynote on helium. So for 2022, we're doing a collaborative research project. We have a couple funders confirmed so far. We have others that are in the process of getting confirmed, but we're doing one on the connected home energy management. This is the topic that came up with through our short list and then through our board of directors, and we're looking. It seems to be the hot topic right now in the space of connected home, and it's going to be looking at a lot of significant trends. It's a market research project, like an industry growth, some potential paths, and adoption barriers, things like that, to the smart home and energy management. It'll be roughly around $70,000 of research, and it's really crowdfunded by our members. So members will chip in typically $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000 depending on their funding level, where they can either get the research for $5,000, more of a pre-buy. $10,000, they get to be on the steering committee to shape the research, get updates, get additional webinar for their organization. It's the most popular level. And then there's a $15,000 level where you get a case study incorporated into the research. So we did an RFP. We haven't selected the research firm just yet to conduct this project. We're going to wait till we get a few more funders in place. And then the idea is we'll start the project this year and then complete it either in December or maybe January, February or something in the new year, the first quarter of the new year. If you're interested in getting more information about how to become a funder of this research, only the funders get the full research. Definitely reach out to myself at walker@caba.org. The next research project was the one that was recently completed. This one's on the connected home and AI. The executive summary has been shared out to all CABA members, and it's available to be purchased in July 23rd is when the embargo period ends. So if you're interested in purchasing that research project, the cost is $4,900, and it's available on July 23rd is when the embargo ends. So you'll be able to access this complete research on the connected home and AI. This one was done by Harbor Research. So I'll just pass it off to Jim to introduce Scott, and then some of the good work from Helium and some of the blockchain technologies that are in the connected home space. Jim.
Great, thanks, Greg. Today's going to be a fun one because we've always looked for, how do we make IoT? How do we get smart home? How do we get this stuff into the public eye? And the guys at Helium, Nova Labs now, have done some good stuff. Just to give you guys a background, you may have heard of Helium before. Helium's been around since about 2013. And it was none other than Sean Fanning, the creator of Napster, and Amir Halim, who founded it. And they started off as a hotspot maker. They were making hardware. And they kind of quickly figured out that maybe we need to manage the network. So they started partnering and enabling folks who had their own hotspots, both LoRaWAN hotspots as well as 5G hotspots, and basically have created this crowdsourced network that's owned and operated, overseen by them, and then it's actually owned by the people, and it's operated by the people. And the interesting thing about this is they were, moving along and they're building, right? They've got 500,000, hotspots around, and they're covering. I'll let Scott really lead into that, but they're covering just a large amount of the world with these hotspots. And they were like, well, what can we do to really raise the bar on this? And this is where it gets interesting because I'm a crypto guy. They got funding in 2019 and basically said, Helium is our network. We're going to call ourselves Nova Labs. We're going to rebrand. Actually, not in 2019. They started this move in 2019 to shift towards this. And in March of this year, I think you guys got a huge influx of funding from Anderson Horowitz and Tiger and some others that really kind of moved you into this new level. So now they have a coin that is a reward system for folks actually using and operating these networks, which is really, really interesting in the crypto world. Their coin currently trades at a very lucky $7.77 right now. But Scott Kaplan, he's going to share this in-depth look at what they've done all the way from where they started to the massive growth that you're seeing today. They're being called a unicorn in some camps as well. As I said, they use LoRaWAN and they use 5G. And it's really, really interesting. So Scott is the business manager at Nova Labs, which is the rebranding of the Helium decentralized network. So take it away, Scott.
Hey, Jim, thank you for that introduction. That was great. Just to kind of piggyback on that. So Helium Systems Inc. was founded in 2013, mold around a couple of different things, how to get, there we go. How to get, different ways to democratize connectivity for devices. In 2017, when we saw that first cryptocurrency bull run, that's when the thoughts turned to a blockchain. To be able to deploy a telecommunications network and have it owned by people as opposed to have it owned by, one entity or a couple of entities as they continue to, deploy their network infrastructure. So we like to tell people when we first start, the wireless revolution is here. So let's go to the next slide and we'll kind of give you a rundown of Helium. So on a slide forthcoming, we actually are at 825,000 hotspots deployed worldwide. We're on 6 continents. If anybody has Antarctica, where I can deploy a hotspot or a few hotspots, let me know. I would love to get that 7th continent itself. And the reason that we've been able to build as fast as we have, we started with our first deployment in August of 2019 in Austin, Texas, with about 100 or 150 hotspots. The hotspot itself is a LoRaWAN gateway that has a Raspberry Pi and some other pieces of hardware in there that can earn HNT, right? So HNT is the native token generated by our blockchain itself. So if you or an entity or a company or what have you, have several sites where you can deploy a hotspot and maintain that hotspot, you're going to earn HNT, right, from creating coverage and sending data packets back and forth on the network itself. And so since August 2019 to now, we've been the fastest growing network in the world. And in North America and Europe, we've seen huge amounts of coverage really be deployed, along with solutions on that coverage as well. Next slide, please. So currently, in terms of ecosystem of manufacturers, we have 34 approved manufacturers that are selling these LoRa gateways in the space itself. Part of the reason we rebranded on March 31 to Nova Labs is we wanted to have a better delineation between us as a for-profit company and the DY Alliance, which is a nonprofit company that then switched their name to the Helium Foundation itself. We started manufacturing hotspots in 2018, 2019, and we quickly realized as the appetite grew that we couldn't be the only maker. And plus, we wanted to make sure that a decentralized network had, decentralized, hardware manufacturers to, be able to sell and get their hotspots out there. So the Helium Foundation itself has a manufacturing oversight committee focused on, making sure that there's no, vaporware or any bad actors coming to the market to try to sell hotspots in the space itself. So 34, I think we're at like 70 or 80 companies that have submitted their manufacturing oversight committee plans as well. So next slide, please. So network statistics. So this is talking about the LoRaWAN network itself, which is the first network protocol that was deployed using the LoRa gateways themselves. So we're actually, as of today, I actually just looked, we're at 825,000 hotspots themselves that are deployed out there, excuse me. Data credits spent, we're at about 2 billion data credits spent on the network each month now. So we're really starting to see kind of that hockey stick kind of shape up towards, companies, people from all over the world using the network and leveraging the network for a variety of different, verticals, specifically in connected home as well. We're actually in, I think, 173 countries now, and then like 67,000 cities. And then active community members on Discord, we're at 168 or 170,000. We have a pretty rabid Discord base of people who are building coverage, who are building solutions, or who are really, RF engineers, enthusiasts of IoT, not just, blockchain enthusiasts or cryptocurrency enthusiasts. We have a lot of builders in our network. TikTok is something for people younger than me, so we do have a good engagement on TikTok. And then, like I said, hotspot manufacturers. So I think we're 34 is the approved amount now, and I think we're like 70 or 80 that have actually submitted plans and are waiting approval itself. Next slide, please. So yeah, I don't know if anybody kind of went through the growing pains of last year with trying to get chips with the chip shortage of 2020, 2021. But in terms of how fast we've been able to grow right now, in terms of LoRaWAN hotspots added on the network, we're looking at about 80,000 a month, and so that kind of reflects that here as we're this is just under 700,000, but now we're over 820,000. So we've seen some exponential growth when we started from July 2019 with 150 hotspots to this time last year like 20-some thousand or so. And then once we hit September, we got over some of those chip shortages and people finally got their hotspots. We've just kind of been absolutely really firing on all cylinders in terms of hotspots deployed around the world. Next slide, please. Right, so why Helium? Largest public IoT network in the world, fastest to actually deploy a network itself in terms of the coverage that we have, and we continue to add to it. The Helium network, the LoRaWAN network, is a Class A LoRaWAN network itself. So there's, as you guys know, there's a ton of manufacturers, software platforms. We stay as agnostic as possible for people who are looking to bring their solutions to Helium. So being able to have a diverse set of solutions, whether they're a la carte or full stack, has been huge for increasing network usage and increasing the satisfaction of our partners and customers. The cost itself for using Helium. So a data credit up to a 24 byte packet. So that data packet itself, the data credit costs $0.00001 US. So we're talking about very, very small amounts of money needed to send a data credit back and forth on the network. And so if you do that every 5 minutes, the yearly cost, if you're sending a data packet every 5 minutes on the network, the yearly cost would be about $1.05. So it can vary depending on obviously the payloads that you're sending and the frequency. But if you're pretty standard in sending data over and over again, you're going to see very, very small amounts that's going to cost you. And again, having that network that we don't own, that the people own, having those network infrastructure costs and not having fleets of workers to have to service that network infrastructure, that cost savings goes to companies, entities in the space to be able to use the network itself. And then, like I said, with us being a Class A LoRaWAN network, any off-the-shelf LoRaWAN sensors can work on the Helium network itself. Next slide. Just a few of our users, we call them network partners. Erica, Digital Matter, M3 Ag is really cool in terms of their agricultural solutions. Now he is doing, along with a few other companies now, this is a little dated, but doing water monitoring, submetering, which is, as you guys know, which is huge. Any electrical or any monitoring or submetering in the space itself is really, it's almost like LoRaWAN and electrical monitoring, water monitoring, submetering go hand in hand. So we do have a few companies that are in the smart home space that are partners that are deploying on Helium, and then just a few other, Salesforce, Airly, and Voxy is a tracker, Barnacle is a tracker as well. And then my vice president's favorite is the Victor mousetraps. They're connected mousetraps, and they tell you when you've caught a mouse, and they're pretty easy to dispose of as well. So next slide. Future of connected cities, just kind of a quick rundown. I mean, as of right now, there's at least 75% of US zip codes has Helium coverage in it. So being able to have over the air a network already ready to be deployed, or excuse me, a network that's already deployed, and companies that are working connected home, smart buildings, anything like that, they already have that network to use, and we're about 20 times cheaper than any other network itself, LoRaWAN network in the space as well. So having that coverage as ubiquitous, especially in population dense areas, is huge. approach, and then anyone who has access to the Helium Console can deploy their sensors, utilizing or just having to only pay for the data credits themselves. Yeah. And then if you take a look at kind of the Helium Console itself, we fully support MQTT and HTTP integrations. So we're going to have, companies like, actually we have a direct throughputs with Azure IoT and AWS IoT as well. So we're pretty compatible with most, if not all, of the software platforms that are out there as well, whether they're custom and kind of taking it from there. But I mean, yep. Next slide, please. Just a few of those some of the partners that we've had. Airly does outdoor and indoor air quality monitoring. NAUI, leak detection, smart water metering, and then Nobel Systems does some smart parking management, which is pretty impressive. The amount of companies that are deploying, LoRaWAN in-ground smart parking sensors themselves. Next slide. Just wanted to touch on, so we've actually worked with, I want to touch on a pilot program that we did last year with San Jose, or continue to do. So San Jose purchased hotspots and they deployed them in strategic locations around their city. From there, it worked almost like a bit of a UBI. The San Jose was able to earn HNT. That HNT was then held in a custodianship on Binance. They were able to take, that HNT, sell it on Binance, and then take the proceeds and distribute money for low-income families to have high-speed internet connection. So it worked out really well. Currently, we're testing with them to have more solutions deployed on the network that they've created. So it started out as a ability to help work with lower-income families, and from there, utilizing the already deployed technology, we're going to have some more opportunities to engage with them as well. So next slide. With 820,000 hotspots deployed worldwide and about 80,000 a month coming online, we found that there's an appetite with traditional or existing IoT networks to roam on our network itself. So the ones that have been announced, Senate, Actility, Extelia, Tectena. Senate actually just in the last couple of weeks announced a worldwide roaming partnership with us. They enjoyed the increase of the network footprint so much that they wanted to move from just a US based to a worldwide roaming contract with us. So it's very, very cool to see that companies that have traditional companies established in the space are seeing the utility that we can offer them, is not only them but also our existing customers and new customers that are coming to the IoT space as well. Next slide. So just a little bit of the benefits of roaming on the Helium network. Like I said, existing access to existing infrastructure. It's pretty incredible being able to take your footprint and then however many times over, multiplying that by the Helium network's 820,000 hotspots. Having coverage redundancy in areas is huge as well. And then as we continue to deploy in developing networks around the world, South America, Africa, Asia, there's also more and more opportunity for companies that are there to have their footprints increased as we continue to deploy the hotspots. So yeah, and then also everyone's looking for the bottom line. So kind of being able to increase network coverage without the need and increase your ROI without the need to deploy additional network infrastructure itself. So next slide. Yep, just a little kind of purview of the roaming dashboard itself. Again, we're seeing some really good traction when it comes to companies coming over and wanting to work with us. So just the sheer amount of hotspots that have been deployed, specifically in North America and specifically in Europe, but soon in some of the other developing networks around the world as well. All right, next slide. So 5G. So this is kind of the one that a lot of companies, people have been waiting for. If you take a look in our ecosystem on Discord, you'll see what's called Helium Improvement Plan 51, Helium Improvement Plan 52, and Helium Improvement Plan 53. So what Helium Improvement Plan, or HIP 51, is proposing is to move, and again, this is a little more like blockchain cryptocurrency, but it's to move the Helium network to a true layer 1 blockchain. So as the move, it gets there'll be a vote in June. I'm assuming it'll pass. Once it passes, the Helium network token becomes the layer 1, and then we move to a multi-protocol network itself. And so the LoRaWAN network itself will have its own, it will be its own layer 2 application and have its own native token. The Helium 5G network will have its, it'll be another layer 2 and have its own network token as well. And this will also be able to create flexibility for other protocols, telecom protocols, Wi-Fi 6, or other 5G or IoT networks to be deployed on Helium as well. So we feel when that gets done, you're going to see a ramp up and kind of another, fast deployment of Helium 5G devices. Currently, there's Freedom 5. There's Bobcat, and there's Bicells. Those are the 3 companies that are selling small cell 5G indoor hotspots. So we're going to see here in the second half of 2022 a real effort and a real focus of scaling network coverage here in the U.S. The 5G network is the CBRS unlicensed space 5G network itself. So we're working with Dish. We partner with Dish. They have I think mandates because they own spectrum rights. So you'll see some of the companies, I think you'll see some of the cities that they're piloting, I think Las Vegas, Miami, and I think there's 5 total, really start to light up with 5G, Helium 5G network coverage. And then GigSky is the first MVNO that is offering a monthly plan on the Helium network itself. And so we're going to see more and more companies come to the space and announce more and more partnerships and opportunities as the 5G network continues to be built out. Currently, I think the 5G network has about, I think, like 5,000 to 7,000 5G indoor small cell hotspots that have been deployed so far. But we feel very comfortable with that number really kind of improving and kind of exponentially increasing here in the next few months and then into the end of the year. Happy to take any questions and hopefully yeah.
I have some questions, but I'm going to wait for any of the attendees that want to ask theirs. Okay, so as a let's just call it, you're on the edge of the frontier of adding reward system to typical IoT. How does the volatility, or specifically, crypto's down right now, how does the volatility of a tradable coin affect your value proposition for your end customers who sign up to become part of the movement?
Certainly. So the interesting part about the tokenomics is so the data credit itself, it will always be pegged to the US dollar. So you'll never, the cost of being able to send data packets back and forth on the network itself will always be $0.00001 US. So when you buy, if you go into the Helium Console or you're buying HNT, on an exchange, so currently you can take, let's see what Binance US is. So $7.79 is the price of the HNT itself. So if you bought one HNT and burn them for data credits, you would get $7.79 worth of data credits. let's say, let's back up from November. At the high, I think was like 55 or something like that. So if you bought bought one HNT in November, it's like $55 or whatever it touched, you get $55 worth of data credits themselves. So the buying and burning of HNT itself is actually meant to be deflationary. And so as more and more companies are buying HNT or burning HNT in the background. I mean, if you use our Helium Console, you actually don't have to interface with any parts of crypto whatsoever. But as more and more companies are buying HNT, that HNT is destroyed. They're burned for data credits, and that's taken off, off chain or out of out of the environment or out of the ecosystem itself. So now there's less HNT in the network. So with that, we feel comfortable saying, we don't want to be a part of the speculation. I mean, certainly crypto itself is always, there's always a certain speculation, or any kind of high risk asset is going to have some sort of speculation to it. We feel that as we continue to drive network usage, we feel that, the more demand companies, people who are buying HNT and burning it for connectivity, the more that we can put a strain on supply as well, and kind of not have to worry about the whims of where the market's going. So we actually have a real world use case of saying, hey, there's a limited amount of supply now because of how much HNT has been burned. So we don't, again, we don't talk price too much. And we kind of try not to stare at the charts. Of course, it's certainly tough not to, but we feel because we are trying to drive as much usage as possible, that there's going to be a natural increase in demand on that on the supply of the token itself, and from there the network will the network token could possibly, and we feel it would increase in value.
Okay, understood. The second question is, what you guys are doing is great, using both the IoT network and using the 5G. How are you guys looking at Starlink, for example, or other network technologies? There's always another new network coming in, Starlink being one of those that might be able to make a dent. What's that look like to you guys?
So we are open to working with all companies in the IoT space, in the 5G space, in the Wi-Fi 6 space. We look at this more as collaborative as opposed to adversarial. If you take a look at our Series D round that closed, that you alluded to earlier, that we announced on March 31, Deutsche Telekom was one of the investors in now Nova Labs' Series D round. So we want to work with telecom companies. We want to work with existing IoT companies. We don't necessarily see us as as kind of we're gonna just come for the market. I mean, you have multi-billion-dollar market cap companies that are kind of entrenched in the space itself. One of the things that we'll see with regards to 5G, as the network increases in density in population dense centers, we want to be able to work with tier 1 and tier 2 telcos to offload their their 5G traffic onto the Helium 5G network itself. So I know that Starlink and Helium can work together. Starlink being the backhaul. So it's really a question of how can we best do business to work with all the players in the space, or a lot of the players in the space itself. Okay,
that's great to hear that that interoperability and the interworking partnership is, I mean, that's key to IoT, right? One more question, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase Mr. Katz's question there. So you guys work with a number of different hardware vendors. So are you essentially a software stack? I see you guys have presence on GitHub. So you guys put your software on other people's devices?
It's an interesting question. So I think the answer would be, in terms of us putting software on other people's devices, I would say no. When it comes to the console, so the data gets routed to our own LoRaWAN network server itself. So we have a front-facing one on the Helium Foundation runs. The Nova Labs runs a dedicated console that we work with partners with, and then we actually have about 30 or 35 instances of companies buying their own OUI and setting up their own LoRaWAN network server for Helium itself. And so there's a variety of different ways to kind of get it done, but we try to, I guess to a certain extent we have software available, but again, there could be other companies that have their own instance of console that you could be deploying your solutions on. It's just kind of the ecosystem. As much as we can, we want to stay as decentralized, but certainly we know that there's certain software that we've made available as open source as well.
Okay, David, you want to ask your question specifically? Thinking you'll have some follow-ups on it. Mr. Katz.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was looking into the repeaters, and I saw that there are many people around me that also would that be. So I guess my question is, what's the payoff if it's we just want to add it to our home if we think we're situated in a place that already has many of them? What will it earn in terms of payback for a repeater or HubSpot?
So if you're in a very dense area and the decision has been made or kind of made for you that deploying a hotspot itself wouldn't work, and or it's too dense to deploy one. We certainly run into these issues now with as mature the network is. You wouldn't be able to earn too much. You could deploy a hotspot, and you're not going to be able to earn too much because someone has claimed that 300-meter diagonal hex, and so it's not the greatest to deploy another hotspot, in that hex itself. You would earn some for data transfer. So I can't really give you too much in terms of how fast you'd have an ROI back if you were in a place that had too much density of coverage. You would earn if you deployed your own hotspot for data transfer itself. There's a few ways to get that done, but you're also talking about with kind of competing with existing networks where we kind of our prices are about 20 at the cost. So you would have a great network that didn't have to deploy any hardware for, but if there's already a hotspot in that claim text itself, it does get a little bit hard to be able to earn the the capital cost back from deploying the hotspot itself. A repeater is not going to earn HNT. The only way to earn HNT is through deploying and maintaining the Helium hotspots themselves. So each hotspot itself is synced to the blockchain, and so we're not in we don't have that kind of like group nodes where they're kind of having one master hotspot where they kind of respond to. Each hotspot has their own backhaul.
Okay, thanks.
So I was looking at some of the feedback online, and it's typically the crypto guys coming in and they're using the word mine. I'm imagining that when they say they set up a miner, they're actually setting up a hotspot. From
Correct.
That perspective, right? And I'm reading, and this is from a couple of days ago. It looks like about 7 days worth gets them one HNT, or 6 or 7 days worth of operation. They can see one HNT come through.
So there's a few different ways to kind of there's a few actually companies in the ecosystem that can do modeling for you and figure out how fast you'd be able to earn one HNT or earn your initial investment back. I think the biggest part, especially when you're in a population dense area, is finding that unclaimed hex to deploy in.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Scott? Well,
yes, I do. I see where I live does not have a hotspot, just to test what you're talking about. What's the sort of approximate cost of deployment to put in a hotspot?
Yeah, certainly.
If you're either multiply or singly, I mean, if you're wanting to cover an area as a commercial proposition.
Certainly, yes, certainly. So, an indoor hotspot or a Wi-Fi or Ethernet backhauled hotspot costs anywhere from $400 to $600. So pretty easy to do to be able to buy that. There's quite a few distributors that I work with, both here in North America and in Europe. So that would be for one. The next step would be determining if you're looking to cover a specific amount of area. Again, working on yourself, working with some RF modeling, or doing some modeling with some of the third-party companies that are in the ecosystem itself to kind of figure out what your needs would be to be able to cover that area. So the second thing I would say, with something about 2 weeks ago now or 3 weeks ago, Light Hotspot has been kind of the next step or the next phase in the LoRaWAN network itself. That's where outdoor hotspots or cellular backhauled hotspots are now able to get on the network and not have too much gigabytes running through them per month. Those would probably, I think the cost there would starts around $800, and I think for some of the legacy manufacturers gets up to around $1,200.
Okay, so to cover a hexagon, one of the 300-meter hexagons you're talking about is to do backhaul to enable LoRaWAN devices in that hexagon, and to then leverage what other people are wanting to use that hotspot for, if it exists, is around the $800 to $1,000 mark, or $1,200. For the
Correct, for the cellular backhaul gateways themselves, absolutely. And then also something to consider, there's going to be, especially both in North America and in Europe, there's companies out there that are deploying Helium gateways on towers, whether it's American Tower, whether it's Cellnex in Europe. So you're going to have a lot of coverage already deployed in the area, and then you just supporting, kind of having that hex, you're going to have a redundancy of coverage, usually in most areas at this point, but something to consider as well, as you're, figuring out where to deploy the best possible spot to deploy your hotspot.
Okay, but it doesn't have to be mounted on a tower. It could just be on a tall building, or.
Absolutely, yeah. I would say most of our enthusiasts or most of our Discord members are ones that either mounted them on their own tower or put it at the top of their house, or had access to strategic locations like that.
Okay, and where does one go to find out more about that? I see your website, so is everything on there if you wanted to do that? Because I mean, I'm on this webinar because I'm interested commercially in LoRaWAN and the opportunities based in the UK, and I've got customers who are using LoRaWAN and looking. This is an interesting way to deploy it, as you say, without needing the cost. If there's already hotspot coverage, you just buy the devices and then just pay for the data, presumably, is what you've been saying.
Yep, correct. I'll tell you what, I'd love to connect you. I think I have like 3 or 4 distributors in Europe that I could connect you to.
Well, which one in the UK would be best then?
That's a great. I'd have to check with the UK. I have a company called Next Machina in Spain. I have a company called Skylab in the Netherlands. I'd have to find my UK distributor and get back to you. So that's
yeah. There seems to be already quite a lot of coverage. Obviously, London has got the biggest coverage, but I mean it's. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Absolutely. And anecdotally, which one of the best things that I think, especially as the coverage becomes, quite robust, we have a deployment of leak detection, and some other kind of smart monitors for a business in London, and they did not have to deploy any network infrastructure, any hotspots. And I think that's where someone like me on the business development team is just like, this is the next step, being able to convert more people over to what IoT and IoT networks can do for their homes or their businesses.
Yeah, I mean there's factually no holes across the whole of London. The hex is full. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Okay, thank you, Scott. This was I think a really great presentation, because it just gets us thinking just a little differently of how IoT and the opportunity for network connectivity can lead to different lines of thinking. So very much appreciate that. I think back to you, Marta. Is Greg still with us?
Yeah, I was like, I'm using her account right now. It's Marta
got
actually
it.
didn't actually show up, but yeah.
Back to you.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Scott.
All right.
With that, I think we'll have a fairly short meeting here, just for we're sort of a little sparse on some of the agenda items for this particular meeting. But I guess the next one here would be, now that Marta couldn't make it, I'm taking over this slide here. But looking at new business for the CHC, anyone have any suggestions for new topics for keynote presentations, new white paper topics? Anything that you think that the CHC should be leaning into or presenting or promoting more, or any initiatives or anything like that? So I'll just leave that open. If you do have any thoughts of new keynotes, I know there's some that are coming in, but you can always send me an email at walker@caba.org. And we'll evaluate these with the chairs and the vice chairs of the council. I guess in the last slide, we have past events. We had a connections event in May, and a future event. It was a CEDIA Expo that may have some interest from some of the members of the council. That's in September to October in Dallas, Texas. We'll be attending the CEDIA event as well. And then next is, I guess, the next meeting. We already have this scheduled on our docket for August 16th on a Tuesday, and we'll be sending out communications in the future, and we're still working on a keynote presentation for this particular meeting, and we'll be communicating that to everyone shortly in the next maybe month or two. And after this call, we'll be in the next couple of days, we'll be sending out an email out with some meeting minutes, and also the link to the recording for those that were unable to attend. So those that are there's a lot on the CHC that couldn't make this particular meeting.
Greg.
Yep, Ken.
Back to your two things in terms of potential new topics, which may be covered in the research on connected home and energy management. But there's a lot of confusion about the funding, whether it's the Canadian Greener Home. We should maybe get somebody in the financial sector to talk to us about how do we fund making our homes more energy efficient, and get it funded from many of these programs that are in the States and Canada.
So I guess like an overview of the funding situation in North America for energy efficiency in residential.
We're doing a webinar OSEA at Ontario on MERBs. The challenge in a condo is different than in a rental building versus a social housing. And so I think how do we get people to spend the money goes back to our life cycle cost thing we did many years ago, to show that interest rates are low, borrow the money, improve your home, and you'll save the energy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Looking at some of the ROI and from the homeowner's perspective, and then, yeah, I'll reach out with you offline about some potential speakers and some connections there, David.
Research, if we're going to get people, it says energy management, but is it about healthy buildings? Is it about net zero as well?
I don't think it'd be about healthy buildings, but I think net zero would definitely play a role in the energy management as well.
Okay, and this goes to what Ken and I are talking about, the customer edge group that we're with in IREC, the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, because people are being inundated with, hey, put solar on your roof, but they don't know, is it going to pay? How do I do it? What are the research?
Yeah, you were cutting out a little bit there, but yeah, it's definitely And the value proposition is becoming more and more palatable with the lowering costs of solar. But it all depends on where you're living as well. So, but yeah, I'll reach out to you after the call, and we can try to get some names together and some a topic. All right, with that, I guess we'll end this meeting early, and thanks everyone for attending. And I'll see everyone in the August 16th meeting. And if you have any questions or you want to reach out to Scott, feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call. It's walker@caba.org. Thanks.
All right, thank you.